Hey, this is Mark, and you're welcome to AUTOSAYS. A dusty road stretching endlessly toward the horizon, red earth on both sides, and a vehicle that's not quite a truck, not quite a car, but something uniquely Australian, charging through the outback with absolute confidence. Now, if you're watching this from your couch in America, you might be scratching your head wondering what I'm talking about, but stick with me, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see the entire pickup truck industry forever. Before we dive deep into this automotive obsession that's swept an entire continent, do me a favor and smash that like button, hit subscribe, and buckle up, because this story involves billion-dollar industries, cultural identity, and a vehicle that literally shaped a nation. So what exactly is a Ute, and why do Australians treat these machines like their family members? The term Ute is short for utility vehicle, and it was born from a letter, believe it or not, a simple letter that would transform automotive history. Back in 1932, a farmer's wife in rural Victoria wrote to Ford Australia with a straightforward request. She wanted a vehicle that could take her to church on Sunday and carry pigs to market on Monday. Now think about that for a second, because that one sentence contained the DNA of what would become Australia's most beloved vehicle category. Ford designer Lou Bant took that letter and created something the world had never seen, a car-based vehicle with a cargo bed that combined the comfort of a sedan with the practicality of a truck. The first Ford coupe utility rolled off the production line in 1934, and Australians immediately understood they'd been given something special. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part that connects directly to what's happening in America's truck market today. That original Ute wasn't built for construction sites or commercial fleets. It was built for regular people who needed versatility without sacrificing everyday drivability. Sound familiar? Fast forward to 2024, and the average American pickup truck costs around $48,000, weighs over 5,000 pounds, and gets driven to office parks more often than construction sites. We've supersized everything, but Australians took a different path, and their story reveals something profound about identity, economics, and what vehicles really mean to us. Let me take you back to understand why this matters. Australia in the 1930s was a country still finding itself, still carving identity from unforgiving land that stretched for millions of square miles. The Great Depression had hit hard, money was tight, and practical solutions weren't just preferred, they were survival. When that first Ute appeared, it represented something beyond transportation. It was freedom, self-reliance, and the ability to tackle whatever the land threw at you without breaking the bank. Australian farmers, tradespeople, and adventurers quickly realized this vehicle could do everything: haul livestock, carry tools, navigate rough terrain, and still comfortably transport the family. By the 1950s, every Australian automaker was producing Utes. Holden entered the game in 1951 with their own version, and suddenly you had competition driving innovation. But here's what's fascinating from a financial perspective. Utes remained affordable because they were based on existing car platforms. Manufacturers didn't need to develop entirely new vehicles, they modified sedans, which kept development costs low and prices reasonable. This business model created a sustainable market that would last decades. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, as Australia's economy grew and suburbanization spread across cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, the Ute evolved but never lost its core identity. Young people bought them as first cars. Tradies, that's Australian for tradespeople, relied on them for business, and families used them for weekend adventures. The Ute became woven into Australian culture in a way that's honestly hard for outsiders to fully grasp. Think about American muscle cars and the freedom of the open road, then multiply that by practicality and add a healthy dose of "she'll be right," that uniquely Australian optimism that says any problem can be solved with enough determination and the right vehicle. But wait, because there's a twist in this story that'll blow your mind. In the 1980s and 90s, as Japanese manufacturers flooded the Australian market with increasingly sophisticated vehicles, the local auto industry faced existential questions. Could Ford Australia and Holden compete? The answer was yes, but only by doubling down on what made Australian vehicles special. The Utes got more powerful, more refined, and more aspirational. Suddenly, you had performance Utes like the Ford Falcon XR8 and Holden Commodore SS producing over 300 horsepower. vehicles that could smoke tires at traffic lights, then haul half a ton of cargo afterward. The financial success of these models was staggering. At their peak in the early 2000s, Utes represented nearly 20% of all new vehicle sales in Australia, a market share American pickups would envy. And here's where the fear creeps in, the thing that should make every automotive executive nervous. Australia's domestic manufacturing industry collapsed. Ford Australia closed their doors in 2016, Holden followed in 2020, and suddenly the vehicles that defined Australian identity were no longer Australian-made. The emotional impact was profound. Imagine if America stopped producing pickup trucks entirely. That's the scale of cultural loss we're talking about. So what happened next, and why should Americans care? This is where our story enters its final act, and trust me, the implications are massive. With domestic production gone, Australians had a choice: abandon the Ute concept or find alternatives. They chose to adapt, and the market transformed completely. Thai-built pickups from Toyota, Ford, and others flooded in, traditional body-on-frame trucks that were more utilitarian than the car-based Utes Australians loved. But here's the crucial detail. Australians still call them Utes. They've redefined the term to include any pickup-style vehicle because the emotional connection runs that deep. Today, the Toyota Hilux, which Americans know as the Tacoma's tougher cousin, is Australia's best-selling vehicle overall. Not just best-selling truck, but best-selling vehicle, period. The Ford Ranger sits in second place. Together, these two models sell over 150,000 units annually in a country with just 26 million people. Do the math on that per capita rate and apply it to America's 330 million population. You'd see nearly 2 million sales of just two models. The financial implications are staggering, and major manufacturers have noticed. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Australia's love affair with Utes has influenced global truck design. The Ford Ranger that dominates Australian sales? Ford spent billions developing it specifically for markets like Australia and Thailand, then brought it to America as a smaller, more efficient alternative to the massive F-150. The success of mid-sized trucks in America, the Ranger, Tacoma, Colorado, traces directly back to Australian buying preferences. You're witnessing cultural cross-pollination in real time, where Australian identity, shaped by land, distance, and practicality, is now influencing what Americans drive. But there's urgency here too, because the Ute story reveals something critical about our automotive future. As trucks in America grow larger, heavier, and more expensive, they're becoming less accessible to average buyers. The median American household income is around $75,000, yet the average new pickup costs nearly $50,000. That math doesn't work long term. Australia faced this exact crisis when domestic Utes died, and their solution, embracing smaller, more affordable, yet still capable trucks, might be our roadmap. Electric vehicles add another layer. The first electric Ute concepts are emerging, and manufacturers are watching Australian reactions closely, because if Australians, with their deep truck culture, accept electric Utes, it signals market viability elsewhere. Think about what Utes represent at their core. They're about identity forged through relationship with land, about vehicles that serve multiple purposes without pretension, about freedom to go anywhere and do anything without requiring wealth. That 1932 farmer's wife wanted to go to church and carry pigs. She wanted one vehicle for her whole life, not separate cars for separate purposes. Australians built an entire automotive culture on that principle, and maybe, just maybe, that's what we need to remember as we navigate the future of trucks. The Australian Ute story isn't just history, it's a mirror showing us what happens when vehicle culture aligns perfectly with national character, when design serves real needs rather than marketing departments, and when people refuse to let go of what matters to them, even as industries collapse around them. As you sit there, watching this on your TV, probably surrounded by comforts and conveniences, consider what your vehicle says about you. Does it serve your actual needs, or have we been sold an image? Australians never lost sight of utility, that's literally in the name, and their unwavering love for Utes through boom times and collapse, through domestic production and imports, through every economic shift of the past 90 years, tells us something profound about what vehicles should be.
The Ute revolution that started with one letter in 1932 continues today, influencing global markets worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So the next time you see a mid-sized truck commercial or hear about new models designed for efficiency and versatility, remember you're seeing Australian influence, the legacy of that original coupe utility spreading across the world. If this story grabbed you, if you're thinking differently about trucks and automotive culture, hit that like button and subscribe to AUTOSAYS, because we're just getting started exploring how history, money, and identity collide in the automotive world. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep questioning what you drive and why you drive it, because those answers reveal more about us than we realize.